Your very first fire cape. The original RuneScape rite of passage. This is where boys become slightly bigger boys, but not quite men. I'm making this video specifically for you if you're trying to get your very first fire cape, or if you just enjoy my videos and you want to be entertained. If you're struggling to get your first cape, fun fact, it took me 9 tries to get my very first cape, and look at me now, a man in his 30s making B-tier videos about a medieval role-playing game. What I'm trying to say is if these shaky hands can make it through Jed, you can too, and probably a lot easier and faster than I could, so let's dive right on into it. The only hard requirement is a whopping 30 GP, so you can visit the sunny island of Karamja. That's right, there's not really any hard requirements, you just have to be able to get here. There's a bunch of level 3s with legitimate fire capes. However, I do have some suggestions for you. I recommend you have 75 range. It's not 100% needed, but a blowpipe is really nice here. A faster cave means less time for your dumb ass to mess it up, take more damage, use more prayer. You can certainly do it with lower. People do have those level 3 capes, but for your first one, 75 range is a really good baseline. 43 prayer is an absolute must. This way you can use all of the protection prayers. I do recommend getting 44 just because it's one more, and this way you can use Eagle Eye and speed up the fight. Defense is going to help you tank a lot of hits. Higher is always better. I do recommend at least 40 for Blessed D'hide. It's going to give you quite an advantage in the cave, and if you can get up to 70, this is really nice for having some Barrows tank gear. I personally, for first capes, like to wear some Verax since it does give you some of the prayer bonus, but I'll talk about that again in the next section. You can use any attack style, but for your very first cape, I suggest you use range. This is going to make it way easier for you to safe spot monsters, hit over them, and just tag enemies from afar, which is going to be more important when I discuss the enemies later in the video. Also, the blowpipe, just for its cost, is an insane amount of DPS. Once again, doing a faster cave means less mistakes, less damage taken, and less prayer used. If I haven't made this abundantly clear already, your main weapon for the entirety of the fight caves is going to be the blowpipe. As far as the darts in your blowpipe, I think amethyst are a great middle ground. They're not that expensive and they do hit really hard. Now, aside from your blowpipe, I also recommend taking a long range weapon so that you can hit enemies that are a little bit further away from you. Some good examples of this are the crystal bow, which you have access to fairly early on, the web weaver or the bofa, or even a crossbow if you don't have access to the others. This can be extremely useful for hitting enemies that are far away from you, mainly the bats, as they do drain your prayer when they hit you. It's also good for safe spotting and prioritizing other monsters when you want to kill one before the other ones, and just overall speeding up the cave. For your armor, you're going to want to use Blessed Dragon Hide. This is actually going to be better than Carol's. And the reason for that is that, one, it is tankier, it gives you the same range attack bonuses that Carol's does, and it also gives you a prayer bonus. If you have access to something better, like a loan from a clanmate, Masori is great. If you got Crystal and a Bofa, go for it, but you're probably not using this video in that case. For your amulet slot, you're going to want at least the Amulet of Glory. The Fury is better and the Anguish is best. Boots are a very low priority slot. If you do have Devouts, those are really sick, but you can just use any range boot like the Snakeskins or the Shazian 5s. For your ring, if you can afford it, absolutely bring the Lightbearer. I love it here. This is going to give you twice as many blowpipe specs during the cave. The blowpipe special attack heals you and does more damage. This is going to be your main source of healing throughout the entire fight cave, so more of this equals more healing and more damage. If you're finding that you're taking a little bit too much damage for your comfort level, you can swap out some of your Dragonhide pieces for Barrows. Personally, I love the Verax set. Look at it, it's just iconic. But also, it's pretty tanky, and it does give you a prayer bonus, which is extremely important during the fight caves. I don't recommend you bringing Guthans anymore. Way back in the day when the fight caves first came out, this was a good way to heal up, but in 2024, it's just super unnecessary. Our gear is so much stronger than back then, and your blowpipe should give you more than enough heals to not have to use any of your brews. Hey, if you guys are liking the video, make sure you like the video and subscribe to my channel. It's the 2 biggest things you can do to help me out grow as a creator. There is one plugin that I recommend that's going to make this way easier for you. It is in the Runelite Plugin Hub. It's not a standard plugin, but you're going to want to get the Fight Caves Spawn Predictor, and it's got this little Jad head on it. What this does is it shows you what the next wave of the Fight Caves is going to be. If you see on my screen here, it's going to show that a blob spawns up in this corner. That way that I know I need to position myself close to this corner in order to hit that blob as soon as possible. Not only is this going to speed up your entire Fight Caves experience, it's also going to make it a lot easier for you to position yourself in order to safe spot monsters and take way less damage. Your inventory is going to be variable based off of your stats, your skill in actually playing the game, and just how the caves are going for you. It will be consisting of 4 different main potions though. First up, we have ranging potions. I personally like to bring 2 of these and just stay potted the entire time. Don't save a whole potion for Jad, you really only need 1 or 2 doses for him, so just make sure that you are using these. Next up, we have stamina potions. This one's really going to depend on your playstyle. I like being very aggressive, so I usually bring 2 of these. But if you are just going to place things safe and safe spot most of the monsters, you are going to be just fine bringing 1 of them. Let's talk really quick about Spellbook. If you are really worried about healing during the fight caves, you can bring blood spells, but honestly, you're not going to have to. Your blood pipe is going to heal you up just fine. I recommend bringing Thralls and Death Charge. Death Charge is going to give you more blood pipe specs, which is going to be a better use of your time than using blood spells, and Thralls will help you speed up the caves just a little bit. Next up, we have Saradomin Brews and Super Restores. The ratio of brews to restores that you're going to take is going to entirely depend on you, your playstyle, your defense, your skill level, how long you're taking, how much damage you're taking. As I said before, there's a lot of variables, but I think a good amount for you to start with would be 4 to 6 brews. Usually I just bring 1 and I rarely, if ever, touch it. Your blowpipe really does a lot of work for you. Like, don't underestimate that. But if you are finding that you are taking too much damage and running out of brews, decrease your restores and replace them with brews. And if you're getting to Jad and you don't really touch your brews at all, you know, you can always bring more restores or more gear switches. Before we actually go into the caves, let's discuss the monsters within. The way that the waves works is that when you complete a wave, the next wave will either fuse the 2 lowest level monsters into the next monster, or it will give you 1 more bat. We start off the fight caves with 1 bat. Bats hit very low, but they do drain your prayer 1 prayer point every time they hit you. It's super annoying, but they do have 10 HP. This is the main reason you are bringing a long-range weapon, so you can one-hit them at a distance. If we pull out our calculator and do some complicated bat math, we have bat plus bat equals blob. No, not that blob. This blob. Unlike the Inferno blobs, fight cave blobs are not a threat. They hit very low, but when they die, they do turn into 2 smaller blobs. 2 blobs make a ranger. Rangers can rack up some serious damage against you if you're not praying, and they're usually your first priority in the later waves. If you get within melee distance, they will also melee you. While they don't hit very high, they do hit very consistently. 2 rangers combined make a melee. It's like a priest rat type of guy. They can hit really hard, and if you're within melee distance of them, they will heal themselves and others. It's best to safe spot these using the walls or other monsters within the caves so they can't use their healing effect. Everyone knows that 2 melees make a mage. These are very dangerous. They attack you with a very powerful magic attack, and you should be praying mage at all times once these are out. If you get within melee range, they will do a powerful melee attack, so just make sure that you do attack these at a distance. Protect from magic will render them completely harmless. Finally, 2 frogs together make 1 Jad. Jad attacks with all attack styles, and he is the final boss of the fight caves. You have eons between hits. They're telegraphed well in advance, so do not panic. I will be talking more about Jad in the final section of this guide. You have your inventory, you have your gear set up, you know all of the enemies at this point. How do you do the fight caves? Honestly, just get up and go in there. Don't wait for a special rotation. The number one thing that I feel that most new players mess up on here is overcomplicating the fight caves and then getting shaky hands on Jad. That being said, I'll leave you with a few tips and tricks on this that should make it a little bit easier, and hopefully you get one and done on this. One of the biggest things that's going to be a huge quality of life for you during the caves is paying attention to the spawn predictor and just planning your next moves ahead. During the current wave, look and see what it's saying for the next wave and position yourself in order to either safe spot the enemies or just get on the next enemy as quick as humanly possible. You don't have to stick to the walls to safe spot the melees. You can use the blobs. Blobs are my favorite way to safe spot the melees just because you can position them wherever you want in the cave. It uses way less stamina and it's going to speed up your experience so much because this way you don't have to wait for everything to come all the way into one corner. If you're a very low level, like below level 50 or a 1 defense pure, you can use this corner right here near the entrance to safe spot a lot of the enemies. This is going to make it a lot easier for you, although it is going to make the cave take a very long time because enemies are going to get stuck on these corners. That way you're going to be able to choose what you fight when you fight it, and usually just 1 monster at a time. Once again, I really don't recommend doing this unless your account is very low level. Before we move on to talking about Jad, I want to reiterate 2 things that I've hammered to death already, but speed is going to be your friend. Faster cave is easier cave almost every single time, and just don't overthink it. Overthinking it is your worst enemy. 'enemy. It's very simple. Just get after it. Listen, I get it. The thing that kills most people at this point of the game is the nerves. You don't want that entire hour that it took you to get to Jed to go to waste, and you start to get super nervous. Your hands are sweaty, knees weak, mom's spaghetti. But really, personally, my hands used to shake like you would not believe during this, but I want to let you know that this is nothing to be worried about, and you can easily get through this. Before you start the fight with Jed, make sure that you heal over your max HP with either a brew or an anglerfish. This way, if you do accidentally tank a hit, it's not going to kill you, and you will be perfectly fine. Since we are going to be ranging, Jed is going to attack every 8 ticks, which is 4.8 seconds. Go to your prayer book right now and change your prayers and count to 5 Mississippi before changing it to the other one. In order to telegraph the hit, I recommend you turn on the game sounds. He does make this whooshing noise for the mage attack before the animation, and then for the range attack, I would rely on the animation. He's going to stomp the ground. You really can't miss it. Once you get Jad below half health, he will spawn up to 4 healers. You have to attack each one of these once. This is known as tagging them, and this is going to make them attack you. You'll then have to lure them slightly away from Jad so that they stop healing him. You can tell this by the healing animation that they do that you can see on screen now. If you have a higher defense, you can just tank them and continue killing Jed like I am, but if you are taking a lot of damage, you are going to have to kill them. If Jed is out, your #1 priority, no matter what, is praying correctly against his attacks. If you pray correctly, you cannot die here. If this is your first cape, I recommend doing 1-to-1 actions after the healers come out. It's going to make things a lot simpler for you. What I mean by this is you're going to pray against Jad's attack, then you're going to tag one of the healers, get ready for his next attack, pray correctly, and then tag another healer. This is going to be a lot slower, but it is going to make it way less likely for you to make mistakes. Same thing with you healing. Make sure that you pray against Jad's attack, click your brew, pray against the next attack, click your next brew, restore, and so on and so forth. If you're super comfy with the Jed fight, ignore this entirely. It's going to slow you down, but I have found that this does help people out who are a little bit more on the nervous side. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, make sure that you do drop a like on the video and subscribe to my channel. It helps me out tremendously. And if you are looking for a clan in game, I'm currently recruiting for mine. Just join my friend's chat and I will be sure to get you added.